use this one. Looks like we're ready to go. You ready? All right, here we are. Well, wonderful. We are ready to start. Thank you for joining us. Catherine has so much to offer. This is going to be a marvelous evening. This, of course, is our we meet once a month, and a Vibrant Living series, and we're delighted to bring people who have something unique to offer. And we've known Catherine has a great deal to offer, and she was guided to request another session a few months ago. So this is going to be wonderful. Her topic is timely and finally growing, and I have learned so much from our near-death study group and from Catherine. I've had some sessions with her, and Peggy has, and we find it very worthwhile. I had a recent experience that helped convinced me all the more. I had not had an individual session in terms of meeting somebody from the other side and thought, well, this might be interesting. My dad visited with me soon after he passed several years ago, but I'm not quite attuned like some people are to those on the other side, but I decided I'll have a visit with Hollister Rand. And so Peggy and I had an interesting session with her. She comes up from LA from time to time and is highly skilled at this type of thing, and thought, well, this might be interesting. And so I unfortunately was a little bit late for the session, but first she looked at Peggy, and then she looked at me and said, there are two men here, your dad and somebody, I'm not sure what to say. Oh, he's telling me his name. It's George. And right away I knew who it was. Tears came to my eyes. He was my best friend in high school, and we maintained some contact. And so they said things that were very personal and very convincing. And then the following day, Peggy talked me into going to the Spiritualist Church, which does this on a regular basis, of course. She said, no, there's an extraordinary person speaking this Sunday. I said, oh, well, that sounds interesting. So we went there, and of course we went from here to there, and we were a little bit late, but heard her talk, and then she started sharing with who the spirits were telling her to talk to. And she points at me as a second person, which I didn't expect, and she said, well, there are two men here. One is your dad, and one is a good friend. And it was exactly the same people, of course, but that was very compelling, very much pay attention what's going on. So we're fortunate to have this coming to the fore all the more, because it helps us make connection with the other side, especially our higher self, which is eager for us to express the best of who we are and what we do. Just very briefly here, I'll mention a few things. I'm sure many of you know about Catherine. Author, speaker, communication facilitator, evidential medium. That means the real thing. It's evidence that she looks for and finds and makes a wonderful difference with so many. She's been doing this for over 35 years, sharing her unique ability, dialoguing with Source, and many, many experiences as a result. Co-author of the book Beyond Ever After, A Heart-to-Heart Journey Through Death and the Afterlife. Please warmly welcome Catherine Weissenberg.
I have a little booster step. So thank you, everyone. It's just so wonderful to see people. Some people I haven't seen since before COVID. So I'm really very touched that you came out on the time change time. So thank you so much. And a beaver moon, a full moon tonight. And I have to mention, Unity offers lots of events, and last night we had Amy Batchelor doing sound bowl healing. She does sound baths once a month, the first Tuesday of the month. It's phenomenal, and she was calling in the ancestors, and I said, wow, this is going to be really freaky. She called in the ancestors, and now we're here with this topic, so I don't know exactly what we can expect, but I just want to thank you all for coming out. What I'm going to be presenting tonight is oh, my slides aren't there. Thank you. You can leave my slides. Well, I don't. You do what you do. The gentleman back, do what you want to do. So, this is not academic. How many of you, show of hands, have lost someone you love? And if nobody raises their hand, I'm in the wrong room, and so are you. And then also, how many of you have felt a presence? Felt like your loved one has reached out to you? Could be a dream. Could be you hear their voice in your head. So these are direct experiences. And why I like to talk about this is because we are all having these experiences. But many of us have them and then think, was that real? Did I imagine that? Am I making this up? And so I really want all of us to get a sense this evening that no, it is real, and also that you can trust your own experiences. We are all having these kinds of experiences. A little bit about me. I've been doing this he had an older bio, probably I sent him an old bio, for about 37 years now. And how I think it started is when I was 18, I had what they would call a spiritually transformative experience. Could have been a near death. Somebody said maybe you asphyxiated. I don't know. But I was in my room and then I wasn't. And I was not a drug user, so it wasn't that I was taking some sort of trip. But I was in a place and I was moving fast, kind of like if you're on a plane and you look down at the clouds. I was moving very fast forward, and there was a light in the distance, and I had these beings communicating with me with music that had no words, but they were communicating. And I was in this experience, and I thought, what's happening? The thought occurred to me, I must be dead. And I asked them, am I dead? And they said, yes. And 18 years old, and probably would have, if I didn't do what I do, would ask it at 75, is like, I thought you saw somebody who was already dead. So I was, at that time, my Uncle Eddie was the only dead person I knew. So I said, where's Uncle Eddie? And they said, I said, I want to see him. And they said, well, not yet. And so I was in this experience, and I'd have thoughts come up like, oh, my mom's going to find my body, wherever my body is. And whatever, a worry would come up, and then it would just go away. And I stopped moving, and I said, why am I stopping at this invisible thing, a barrier and they said, you have a choice to make. You can go back or you can go on. And I point over the light and says, God over there? And they said, yeah. And I said, well, if I choose to go back, does that mean I can't come back to this place because it feels so great? And I can tell you, we won't let my daughter know this, but it was even better than getting my daughter, I was going to say giving birth, but I had a C-section, but I guess I did give birth. And what came out of my mouth is, then I think I have more work to do. And boom, I was back in my body. And I think this work that I've been doing these 37 years is the more work. Then I thought it was write a note to my mom, hide it in the closet. When I got in a car accident, Mom, don't worry about me, it's really great. Give my AMC Hornet to, my car and whatever. So I think that kind of set me up perhaps for this. But that's kind of my background. Then nothing happened for 10 years. And then I was in grad school, and I started getting these wild experiences. It was studying communication. So that's God's cosmic joke, that God's like, you want an advanced degree in communication? I'll give you one that the university can't provide you. So all that kind of work has been going on since then. So tonight, we're doing it a little differently. Like I said, it's not academic. It's our direct experience, your direct experience. And I have 3 fabulous women who I have had the privilege and honor to work with, and several of you in this room. Thank you for coming out tonight. Thank you very much. that will share their direct experiences. So, you know, death is such a taboo topic for a lot of us, or it seems taboo. When someone loses someone, people don't know what to say. They'll send you a card, and then maybe they stay away from you because they just don't know how to react sometimes. Even people who are close to us. Everyone has grief and loss, and that is unique and different and dynamic, and I don't have to be up here telling you you've all lived long enough, lost enough. You have your own direct experiences. I have death doulas in the room. I have a lot of hospice nurses. There's a lot of people here, and all of us who have had these experiences. And the talk title is The Healing Power of After-Death Communication, because that is what I think people find most healing. You're going to hear what I do in my little blend of it, and it's no less greater or less than when you feel your grandmother, you smell the cookies your grandmother used to make, right? Or you get a hit of that perfume, or you just sense that presence. And if I surveyed the room, we would have literally hundreds and hundreds of experiences that people could share. And unfortunately, we're on a time constraint, so we're not going to do that tonight. But check my notes here. So what I do is a little unique. I shied away from being called a psychic and a medium. Even a gentleman and I had lunch on Sunday here at church, and I sat next to him and he said, "Oh, so you're a medium?" I'm like, yeah. I kind of have owned it, and when Jim said I look for evidence, I don't look for anything. But people do, deceased people do bring up things. So what I do, and you're going to see a little bit of it, or people will talk about it, is I am a communication facilitator or consultant. So I am the wire, the rope between the two cans, you and your loved one. I also do that with source. I do source writing, like I'm talking source. And I do that as well as people in comas. And you heard I have a book about one of my clients who was the biggest skeptic, whose husband woke up after 5.5 weeks in a coma after brain surgery when we were on the phone. So anyway, so what I want to talk about really is this idea of, this goes backwards, they told me. And can you put my slide up? I know I'm going the right way. Gentlemen, help me. Oh, there we go. Okay. So I want to just share with you a little bit of what Source says about death, dying, communication. And these are just questions that clients have asked, and these are answers they've received. So I'm not going to read you a lot, but it's like, when we die, do we go to heaven? And Source answered, in the depths there is no more fear. So the individual remains very much themselves, but the limitations in thought lift. Heaven is a term many use, but really is the ability of all things to recognize their limitlessness. So there is this passage, a homecoming, but not letting go of the individual, their experiences, their gifts, their wishes, and their desires. The greatest thing is in the passage is the removal of fear, which makes all possibilities reveal themselves. And then some of you may be wondering about this, particularly now. There is for some dark choices, even in this. They use their fear to shield themselves from God's love and light. Hell is not a place, it is a state of mind chosen in deep separation. Here's another one. What happens after we die? The existential nature of life and creation. Mortality is dimensionally anchored, is a dimensionally anchored concept that is over-applied in the physical realm. There is no death in spirit, essential. The afterlife is an easy marking, a crack on a sidewalk that doesn't require a pole vault or force to wage a transition across the consciousness or the experience. And one last one. After our human experience as individuals, when we leave our bodies, it was the question. Free. You go nowhere. You are all points connected. This means there is no need to anchor in any attachment. There is no permeable separation. The oneness state is not achieved, it is inhabited. Any experience, all experiences, and all are unification. So you kind of get a sense. There are tons of those. I have like way too many of them, and we have a limited amount of time. So I don't know. There we go. I just want to share with you, when people come, there are common questions that they sometimes ask, and one is like, what happened to you? Where are you? Do you see me? Some people die suffering. Are you in pain? Did you know I was with you? All kinds of things. Can you guide me? They have concerns. So here's one, and these are just deceased people who have shared with their loved ones. And here's one. All your memories are fresh like a camera, and you can go back to any second, anywhere in your life, even in the womb if you want. I also go and see lots of places in the world I never got to go. I ride the back of a bird. Other times I hitch a ride on a raindrop. You can experience any portion of the world that's alive, be it inside the person or the wind or a petal of a flower. Since we can be anywhere at any time, time is a lot different. You get to not be held by it. You understand quickly. That's why they call it eternity, because you see no end. Better yet, you don't even care. So, here's someone talking about their death experience, I guess. I lifted myself out of my body with ease. I went into a wind that lifted me. It was not suffering because I did not go without warning. I knew well the stages and the processes would take me over. My grandfather came and spoke with me. That made it much easier. I did not recognize him at first, but he spoke to me and told me that the time had come if I was ready. So I lifted myself out of my body. It felt good to be out of bed. I didn't want to linger. Not me, no, no. I'm not sure why this was the ending, but it doesn't matter now. So you kind of get the sense that once people, we just like, we feel our heart break and we think they take it so seriously, and they're like, hey, I'm free. Joyous moments. There was no things to review. You just merge with the light. There is warmth, and that is not like I ever felt in life. It was a joyous moment multiplied. I'm not having to do anything, which is different. It's probably a woman. No, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for you men. I'm sorry. I don't know what your version of heaven is. Okay. I really made my poor husband work really hard to help me get ready. Can you do this? Can you make the computer do that? So I take it back. I need a ride home tonight. I can be many places at once. I can visit my children and grandchildren. I can see the stars up close. I can glide on the body of a butterfly. I have no boundaries, and it's all fresh and alive. It's all so very new. Yes, so I know little, but in time I will. But even time doesn't really occur. It's a lot to get used to, but it's not scary. So you can see, people are still themselves, and that's what you'll probably hear somebody say that tonight, not like I'm prompting you to, but people retain their personality. They retain who they are. And that is, when you talk about the evidence part, is like, oh, you know, that sounds just like them, or they bring up some random thing. Here's a short one. This was a woman talking to her sister and her parents, and she said, I've seen so many people, and we sit around the table and recall all the childhood things. It's not like reminiscing. It's all because it's not memories, but it's instantly true reality. You know, my friends are here, and we have lots of fun. We talk about our children and say, you should see mine. And so we pop in on this one, and then we go with them to their children, and then we see our grandchildren, and we compare notes, and we laugh at ourselves, old ladies who haven't changed at all. I get my nails polished. So you can see that it's not cherubs. It's not all cherubs and angels and all that. I did have one last one. I was in my energy body on the nose of a rocket sailing. I'm not late. In fact, I've arrived earlier than expected. Think of me on a trip to explore ahead. The baggage was all left at the gate, called unnecessary, which is why there's the freedom to be all places in the cosmos that's infinite. We are humans, yes, but only infinitesimal in the strands of an infinite spectrum of creation. Love is the only precious thing I carry. And it just goes on and on. It was hard to figure out which ones. Gina, my guardian angel, has about 70 of these things. I was like, how am I going to just pick one? I don't know. But anyway, so you get a sense of people, people deceased. You know, where's my loved one gone? What are they doing? And it's different for everybody. And I have clients who, you're going to hear from Genevieve Klein tonight, who's been talking to her beloved for how many years, Jen? I know I've been working with you over 30. About 70 years he's been gone. So people say, well, am I disturbing them? It's like, even people who are newly gone, they're like, well, are they ready? Am I bugging them? It's like, well, they'll either talk or they won't. I have no idea. So you'll hear from Jenny today. And I think we have the 3 Jens in the house. It wasn't a planned thing. We have Genevieve Klein, we have Jenny Parks, and we have Jennifer Smith. So the 3 Jennies are going to be sharing their experiences with us. So I think we'll move to that part of the conversation, and I'm going to call Jenny Parks up. Jenny? Yeah. They're on. Are they? Oh, now they're on. I didn't know we were doing limbo. Hello. I asked them if they would talk. I didn't ask them if they would do limbo. So, all right. So what we're going to be doing now is talking about some questions that I kind of said here, ladies, are what I'm going to softball pitch you, and you can go anywhere you want. And so, Jenny, will you maybe start how we met really, really quick, and then talk about Jake, who Jake is, and...
I lost my 17-year-old son tragically and suddenly in a hiking accident. He went hiking with his best friends and suffered a heat stroke right about a week to 10 days before high school graduation. And
sorry, it's okay. I've got to put his picture up. Sorry.
I was, as you can imagine, completely out of my mind, and one of my good friends, Arlene, who's here tonight, said, "Do you know Catherine Weissenberg?" And I said, "No." And she said, "You need to."
So, Jenny. All right, here we go. Limbo again.
Okay.
All right, so would you like people to know about your conversations? You've been, when was the first time you talked to Jake, and how did you know it was Jake?
So my career is in death care. I've been a funeral arrangement counselor and a general manager of McDermott Crockett Mortuary for about 20 years. And so I had cared for many, many people's children and loved ones in every spectrum, in every way imaginable. And but when my kids were little, so Jake's a twin. He has his sister's Julia, and he has an older brother named Jesse. But when they were little, I couldn't really explain exactly what I did. So I would just say, I take care of graduates. People graduate. And so when Jake was about 5, we're laying in bed, and he didn't talk at all until he was 3, because his sister was his attorney. So we used to call her F. Lee Bailey, because she would make sure he had adequate representation at all times. And if Jake needed a cookie, that was her. So then when he did start talking, he never stopped. And he said, "Mama, do you just, do you work for Jesus?" And I was like, kinda. And he said, "So do you just set him up so that the angels can come and pick him up?" And I said, kinda. So when I saw Catherine was the day after high school graduation. Julia had gone on to grad night we were trying like everything to be normal for her and so that she could have her experiences. And so I sat down with Catherine. I'm not even crying yet which it quickly changed, but I said, I just want to talk to Jake. And he was this yummy, delicious baby who always smiled. He was funny. He made people laugh. He wasn't well seated in his body. He was a lot socially awkward as he grew up. But he had really 3 best friends, and they were with him when he died. And those friends had been with him the whole time. So I sit down with Catherine, and she just starts writing. She wrote this, Source guided her to write this incredibly beautiful description of where he was, which was like in this mossy forest with fireflies and lanterns, and I could just see him nestled into this beautiful Mother Earth, and that he was safe. But the first thing he said to me was, "No big walk for me, Mom, I graduated." And I was like, what? I couldn't speak, think, act. I just cried. And he said, I've had many conversations with him since and he is a 17-year-old kid. He is funny, and he is irreverent, and he is ridiculous, and he loves his family, and he tells us every day to be happy, to be here, to be joyful, to be light, because he can see us when we are that. But when he said, "No big walk for me, I graduated," I was like, what?
And then tell them about Jake's friend in the afterlife that Jake told you about.
So my beautiful child had not yet had the opportunity to, he wasn't as adventurous as his twin, and he hadn't had the opportunity to have a girlfriend or drive a car or anything like that. He just wasn't ready for all that. And so he said, "I met a girl." And I was like, "What?" And he said, "Her name's Lucy." And I said, "Lucy, huh?" And he said, "Yeah, she's 16. She died in a car accident. Her parents were really strict, but she is the love of my life." And I said, I was so happy to know that he had somebody, that he got to have that, and he is crazy about her. And ridiculously crazy. And then he says, "Don't ask, Mom, don't ask."
Because every time she's like, how's Lucy?
And so I call her Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. And he doesn't want to give me any details except that he loves her. And I'm like, who are you with? What are you doing? Who's taking care of you? Where have you been? And just all the things Catherine said. And he's like, Mom, we're not stuck together like cotton balls. He's like, and he said, but when he transitioned, he had the opportunity to come back, like Catherine talked about. And unfortunately, his body had been irreparably harmed. And if he'd have come back, he would have been what he would have considered a burden to us, and and living a life that he would never want. And he got the life in review. He got to see it all, and he made the choice. And then he said, when I left my body, I thought, oh, she's gonna be so mad. And I was like, well, wasn't mad, I was heartbroken. And he's like, no, not mad at me, just mad that it happened. And I said, well, yeah, of course. And he said, but there were 3 men there, and it was like they loved me, and then they loved me even more. And he said, I had to go.
So my timekeeper, thank you. So Jenny, how is that, I mean, you work with death, and you know grief, and
Boy, I thought I knew grief. I mean, as an empathetic person, you want to hold these people, all their pieces together, but I knew as a professional that I couldn't carry their grief, that it wasn't mine. And I thought I understood it in a way that was different from other people, but I didn't. Until it happened to me, the devastation of losing a child, a twin, right before graduation. It was like a perfect storm of ridiculousness. Like, how could this happen? I have this beautiful, big, amazing life of compassion and empathy and caring for people. Why did this happen to me? And I always used to say bad things don't happen to me. And then it did. But the journey of grief without the people who supported me and the love that surrounded me and the connections that I made with Catherine and being able to, and Arlene and everybody who held me in love healed me. But talking to Jake, getting to talk to Jake, I was like, this is my yummy, delicious kid. I needed to know that he was okay, that he was safe, that he wasn't sad, that he didn't miss us, and all of the things. But then, so connecting with him in this way really, really, really helped heal my broken heart. But I knew it was Jake when he was like, I'd say, Jakey, Jesse's having a hard time. He's really struggling, because they shared a room at night. They slept together, in the same room, and he was struggling.
that's his older brother.
His oldest brother. And he said, buy him funny sheets. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he said, he needs to laugh. You should buy some funny sheets and put him on his bed and don't tell him, and surprise him. And I was like, okay. So I take in that information and I go on with my day, whatever, and forget. I completely forgot. So the next time I come and see Catherine, I said, Jakey, Jesse's struggling really hard still. He's really, and it's been a few months now. And he said, it's because you didn't buy him the sheets. And I was like, oh, okay. So I went home. I immediately opened up Amazon on my phone. And Jake loved 2 things a lot: tacos and pizza. And my family loves cats. So I'm scrolling and I'm thinking, what are funny sheets? I don't know what funny sheets are. And then all of a sudden, there is a giant cat head on a galaxy holding a piece of pizza and a taco. And I was like, oh, were those the sheets that you were talking about? That's Jake. I was like, that's Jake. And you knew his brother would hate him, but also. So I did. I snuck him on his bed. I was like, your brother brought you a present. And he was like, I wish he was here to put him on his bed.
So Jenny, has it changed? Well, I mean, I know there's just, I'm sorry folks, we have so little time here, but just one, we've shared a lot of wisdom, but what would you say to people? And do you sense him around you? Does he send you signs? Do you, I mean, aside from having full on, this is like sit down at the table and have coffee or whatever Jake probably, I don't know what Jake liked to drink, conversations, this,
And
so.
that death is not the end. That he has seen galaxies and dimensions and had experiences. And the other thing that I learned, because I was like, please come see me in a dream, come do this, do that, like show me a sign, please come and see me, I miss you so much. And he's like, Mom, I'm still learning. It's not like when you die, you know everything already. He's like, I gotta figure this place out first. But he sends us signs. Jake draws happy faces on everything. He did it on dirty car windows, walls, his composition book in high school, every smiley face of every Harry Potter character, so you got Hagrid as a smiley face, and so he sends us smiley faces. He watches his cousin very closely and keeps her safe, and sends her smiley faces all the time, because they were like as thick as thieves. And so and he sends me feathers. So when I see a feather, I mean, sometimes they'll just pop up out of the ground like they were never there before, and then all of a sudden it was. But we used to do dance party a lot at my house. We'd move the furniture and have a dance party. And so his theme this whole time has been, Mom, you have to do the dance party. Roll down the windows, sing to the music, find joy, because when you are joyful, I can see you. And so we learn to live in the world with a broken heart and somehow find joy in memories and in conversations. And without her, I wouldn't be sitting here. I'll tell you that. That her gift is a gift to all of us.
Well, thanks, Jenny. And thanks for getting up here and sharing your story and your heart and your wisdom and your boy.
And my baby boy.
Your baby boy. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
All right. Watch the stairs. I told you it wouldn't be academic, it'd be direct experience. And I hope that you have your own experiences. They're all unique, but I hope that it's all heart, it's all love, and love's what makes this all work. And now we have Jennifer Smith coming up to the hot seat.
Hi.
So Jennifer, okay, gentlemen, can you just go to the next slide, because clearly I'm not able to. It'll have a person who looks like this, only much younger. So this is Jennifer Smith, and Jennifer, will you tell them about your experience? And
Sure,
yeah.
Well, I ended up having a couple of experiences with Catherine. Is
I
that
don't
a
know
little
if you need
closer?
to move that closer.
How's that? Is that better?
I don't know.
My dad died in 2023, and to me it was very sudden because he was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer of the lungs, and by the time they caught it, it had moved to the brain. It was all over the body, but we really didn't know it, and it was my first real experience with death or facing death, and I was really demystified by the way the system works. I didn't feel like we were really told what to expect, and basically the chemo wasn't working at the time, and he was very sick, and they sent him home with the hope, we thought, that he was going to get somewhat better, and he thought this too, that he was going to be able to return to the chemo, and he was literally gone in a matter of days. And I'm sure many people in the room have had these kinds of experiences with their loved ones, but to me it was shocking. But it was really shocking to my dad, and he was furious, and he was resistant and did not want to die. And It was awful. And he fought it, and he fought us. He fought the medication, but he couldn't breathe because his lungs couldn't function anymore. And we tried to give him peace by giving him the medication, but he resisted it. So it was a battle, and it was just horrific for our hearts. It was very traumatizing. We finally got to the point of, getting him into hospice, and he was trying to crawl off the bed that was transferring him from his bed in our home to the ambulance. Like, our hearts were breaking, and we were like, it was just the worst experience I could imagine. And even when we got to hospice, he was trying to leave and screaming at us and begging us because he knew what was coming. And so that's the hardest part. So when he finally went that same day that he went to hospice, that's how quick it happened. We were all with him, and he went really peacefully. But I had this horrible feeling that we killed him. And I came to Catherine immediately, and I just said, I don't know what just happened, but I feel like I killed my own dad, and I need to talk. I need to get help. I need to get support around this. And he came right through when we began our beautiful writing, and God came through and Source. And then my dad came in, and he said, I am so sorry. Everything is okay. It is only love. There's nothing but love and peace and beauty. And I didn't know. And he said, I'm so, so sorry because I didn't know. And I didn't mean to put you all through it. And so really the connection of that one particular exchange was of him explaining like just the fear he had of passing and the resistance, and that we didn't do anything wrong, and he just recognized what we were trying to just find peace. And it gave me immense peace, because I don't know how I could have survived with the feelings that I was living with, that we did this to him in some way that he didn't want. So that was my first conversation with my dad, and it was beautiful because I could relay that to my mom and my other family members. I have young siblings who got to have that peace of mind also. And a couple years later, my grandmother passed, and my grandmother was like a mother to me. My mom was a very young, a 15-year-old girl when she had me, and so my grandmother helped raise me. And my mom and I, after my grandma passed, decided we couldn't be in Minnesota with her, so we were here in California. So I called Catherine again, and I was like, I need to talk to my grandma. I need to connect with her. I need to tell her how much I love her, and she's just my heart. And as we went through the Source connection point, I thought my grandmother was going to come through, but my dad popped in first, and he's like, well, it was really funny. That is the other thing too, like Jenny was describing. It's super funny. Like, it's totally their characters. It's like comedians, and I just it makes the whole experience so light and easy. But so my dad popped in, and he's like, I needed to steal his show for a minute here, because he needed to talk to my mom, and he needed to clear some things with her and tell her how sorry he was and how much he loved her and that everything is okay. But as he was talking to us, he was like, I better let your mom in here. She's pretty bossy, and she's getting annoyed with me. So my grandma finally came in, and we got to have a beautiful conversation about just her experience and her life. So that's sort of the beginning of it.
Mm-hmm. And so did they say anything that surprised you, or is there something that stands out that you think, the audience would like to, any wisdom or?
Tons of wisdom. I mean, one thing that my mom and I were curious about, we asked her if who was there to greet her, because she had lost my grandfather and her youngest child. And we thought, and lots of other people, of course, but those were her close ones. And the one thing that I just thought was really beautiful is she said, I was greeted with myself. And she said, isn't that strange? And what that meant to her is she was also 15 when she had her first child, and she raised 7 children.
Wow.
and she took care of other people her entire life, and she made choices for other people. And she even said in this writing how she didn't know how to like love herself and how to like really be herself without it being about everybody else. And so in heaven for her, in her place, she got to be with herself. And so I just thought that was really powerful. And there's so many pieces. There's so many little nuggets in the writings, that the communication.
And did it affect your beliefs or how you think about death or?
Immensely. I mean, well, for one thing, I get visits all the time. My dad visits me in my dreams, and so I'm gifted with that. And it just happened about 2 weeks ago, and I woke up and I'm like, okay, don't forget that. And as soon as I woke up, I told my husband, and I wrote it down, like I heard his voice, and I'm crying, telling my husband, because I got to hear his voice, and I knew it was like him. It wasn't just a dream, it was like him. And so he sees me in my dreams all the time. I feel my grandma often, but it's out of the blue. I'll be like doing something or going somewhere, and she's with me, and I'm just like, it brings me such joy to feel her. And rock hearts on the beach was another thing. I have a huge collection now since my dad passed, so sort of
Thank
my little
you.
keep back. Yeah.
Anything else that you feel like would be important that you,
I think
no
just
pressure.
what a beautiful, for me, I mean, it's I started off really sad, but I just think the beauty of this thing that we go through at the end, and then the transition to the other side, we hear who are left, it's sad for us. I mean, you guys have all probably had that experience, but the other side, it isn't. So if as long as I can just remember that, like how joyful they are, then it just lifts me up a little bit.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Can you put that slide with Jennifer and her grandmother and her dad up? So there's her dad. Your dad was a local musician, played a lot of places. You might have seen him.
Yep, all the places around.
And then
all the
there's
festivals.
a high school girl. Not that one. Go back, boys. Gentlemen.
Yeah, my grandmother at my high school graduation.
So
Yeah.
thank you,
She's
Jennifer.
Thank you so much.
so much. So you kind of get a sense, and now we have Genevieve Klein. Sherry, you going to help her with the steps? Or Fred, thank you. This is Genevieve. I call her Jen.
Thank you.
And Jen, I think, yeah, Jen came to see me. I was a closeted communication facilitator for many decades. So, but Jen was one of the newbies that heard about me and came. Jen is a wonderful masseuse and is still massaging, right? Massaging, yeah. So she's got strong hands. But she lost her daughter. So we had a mutual friend client who introduced us, and so she came to have a writing. And when I say writing, let me just tell you, it's not like I'm a zombie and my hands going. I'm completely president. I'm president. But would you like that? Wouldn't we all like that? Everybody. Just kidding. Sorry, Freudian slip. All right. Reel it back. You know those spirits, they like to play. No. Anyway, and so during that writing, she was talking to her daughter, Michelle, and what was that? Can you tell them kind of what happened?
So I was talking to Michelle, and she said, "Mom, please tell my sisters and my brothers that I miss them, but they should be here because we have lots of fun." She said, "Sometimes I hang on the rafters, swinging around." So then somebody said, "I'm going to butt in," and it was my high school boyfriend.
If you could put the picture up, please. That one, there we go. That's Jen in high school and her boyfriend, Don.
Yeah, and he was Native American. So he and I could not be seen in public because he was Native American.
In North Dakota or South Dakota?
This is North Dakota. And so what we did is his family, his mother and father, would have Native American Indians come in twice a week. They'd sit around on skins, and the fireplace was in the center, and they would talk about their past experiences. So then the other thing we always did, I lived with my grandmother while I went to high school, and she lived near an off branch of the Missouri River, and this was a nice, long, narrow river. And we would go there and we would dance. And
You would sneak.
yeah, we'd sneak because, we just, so anyway, he did catch, so we were walking on the street one day, going home from school, and, teenager, we were in love. And so, in that little town, there was no police. He was considered a police. He was not in a car driving. He was called a marshal. So then, anyway, he stuck his finger right in my face and he said, "Don't you dare ever see me with that Indian again." So that is why we would always go to the river and dance. And so, he was a sophomore and I was a freshman. So he was now a senior and he graduated. And the marshal kept threatening us. So his parents and he decided that he would join the Air Force to kind of clear the air. So long story short, he came home. He promised to come home for my graduation.
From high school,
High school, and he said, "When you walk up to get your diploma, look to the right, and I will be in the back of the auditorium, and I will blow you a kiss. And then, after the ceremony is over, maybe you will meet me in the back of the sweet shop in my truck." So then, when I reached for my diploma, I blew him a kiss. And of course, everybody saw that. So then after the ceremonies, I went behind the sweet shop. He was not there. And it being a very small village, I ran to his house and asked if Don was there. And they said no. They thought he was with me. So anyway, now ceremonies are over. Everybody goes home. Now it's summertime. I could not imagine, and there were no phones at that time. I could not imagine what could have happened to him. And when I came to town with my father on a weekday, I went to his house and everything was gone. So I'm sure they got worried that they better get out of town. But then all summer long, I could not get over what could have happened to Don. He always did what he said he was going to do. And he was a very, very spiritual man. His mother was a shaman, and she taught him wonderful things. So now it's midsummer, and my brothers and sisters, we were all very busy on the farm. We were ready to sit down for dinner, and my father put new batteries in the radio. So he was listening to the news. And as we were sitting down, he was still listening to the news, and a special bulletin came over the news. And he said to my mother, "Let's just listen to this bulletin, and then we'll eat." So the bulletin said, "Local Native American man found, decomposed body found with a bullet in his heart." And then I was kind of dead. And so I started nursing school. I went through nursing school, and I got married, and I raised my children. And many, many years later, somebody told me about Catherine. And they said, you know, you could get some answers. So I went to see Catherine, and my dad talked to me. He said, you did such a great job with your family. And my mother said, you know, you can still bake pies here. And then somebody butted in, and it was Don. He said, it's my turn. He said, when I got shot, he said, I don't remember how it felt, but he said, I saw the crows flying, and I flew with them. And so he said, I said, so what do you do there? He said, this is the most marvelous, it's a wonderment place. It's so beautiful. Everybody loves each other. And I said, so what do you do during the day? He said, sometimes I swim a fish. Sometimes I swim. Sometimes I just walk, and I see beautiful leaves falling. And he said, I always think of you. And he said what happened was, the night of graduation, I was in my truck waiting for you, and the marshal came.
And he said the marshal did it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I didn't know any of it. I knew nothing.
So he said,
Yeah.
and you know, the marshal did it.
So Marshall's long gone, but
Yeah, long gone.
and so you've been having this kind of he tells her he's going to come pick her up when she goes. He's always wooing you. I mean, we don't do this like every week, but what about the buggy? What is he?
Well, he said, I have a buggy, and I keep it shined. So when you come, I'm going to pick you up in it, and we'll go home.
Yeah. So Sherry, when you hear some horse clickety clacks, you'll be like, "Whoa, we better go check on Mom there." Yeah. How has that helped? Has it helped your grief or your?
Oh yes,
Or
because I
what?
feel like I can talk to him.
Oh,
I
that's
talk to my parents, and I talk to my daughter, and they're all happy there.
Yeah. And does Don send you signs? Now you have to really understand this. In the world that we live in, there are things, and I can tell you, I've facilitated 900 of these conversations and 3,600 writings. Tell them about how Don sends you messages
Oh, this is really incredible.
or signs or whatever.
So I have his picture
The picture that we have up
in my
yeah.
bedroom. It's about this big, the frame. And so I ask him questions. So I say, are you swimming today? Or whatever the question is. And the shape of the frame lights up like a neolite. And it goes all over the wall. And then then it dies down, and then I ask him another question, and it'll happen again and again and again. And then sometimes I ask him questions, and he doesn't even do that at all. He must be tired.
So must be tired. So thank you so much, Jen. Fred, thank you, Jen.
Oh,
Thanks
you're
for
so
telling
very
this
welcome.
story. Thank you. So you kind of get a sense, folks, of how vast things are. And these are just a few stories. And a lot is happening, right? But obviously, you don't need a me. I do things that are pretty unique, but we all feel that loved one, right? Just because someone dies doesn't mean that we're not connected or the love doesn't live on. It surely does. And they send us signs. They make themselves known. Have you found that to be the case in your own life at all? Show of hands again. You don't have to go like, yeah, me. So there's, those of you who can't see, there's a lot of hands going up. And that's what I hope that you can take away, is this idea that isn't an idea, it's real. I mean, when I work with people and I facilitate these communication, the people say things about, like, why'd you move the plant in the house? They see, they know, not everyone, but they do see and know and realize our loved ones still care about us. They're still, just because they died doesn't mean they're like, well, Mom, Dad. I mean, Jake goes on and on about his family. I don't know if he's ever told you stories you didn't know about what was going on with your kids, but so not yet. He keeps his confidences, but so signs, synchronicities. Have you ever felt like you were going down one road and you thought, oh, I'm going to turn here, and then you avoided an accident, or you didn't take a job that was offered and you thought, yeah, I bet my loved one had something to do with that. So they're so numerous, but you know, these are the most intimate moments of our lives for some of us. They're the most sacred things that can happen when we feel like we've connected with that person that was so close to us. And again, people, you may be embarrassed, you may be shy, you may not want to tell anybody. They're going to think I'm nuts. I mean, I spent the last 37 years going, people are going to think I am nuts. But I got a lot of people that could say, yeah, you're not nuts, but it is nuts. But so it's this idea that I wish that we could normalize these experiences, that we could share them, that we could celebrate them, you know, and hopefully some of what you've heard this evening has kind of stepped you a little closer to that, and not discount it. You know, I also want to mention something, because a lot of us have been at the bedside and cared for our relatives who are sick and dying, and felt helpless and have had to stand by and watch and wish we could do more. And I want to just pass along a couple of things that I have, in my experience, that have really struck me. So many years ago, I don't even know, my daughter was really young. I had a woman, and I had two women come for a writing, and it was, they wanted to talk to this woman's daughter, and it was the mother and it was the best friend. And what often happens is when people are deceased, they'll say some random weird thing that I don't even understand, but I don't censor anything. And the woman said, why didn't you just cut my hair? And the mother's crying and the best friend's crying, and they're looking at each other, and I'm like, and then everybody always thinks I know, like I've been in your drawers or something, and I know I've got all the back secrets. I mean, like, and, you know, and this woman actually had to, wanted to tell, her whole part, side note, is she wanted to talk about how she wanted her children to be handled, like what she wanted to have. She was a young woman when she passed. She had an aneurysm that ruptured, and so poof, she was young and her children were young. And so she was like, do this with this child and do that and tell my husband that, and he has to be aware. Like, imagine you're the parent, whether you're the father or the mother, and boom, you're just out of commission, and the other parent may not know all these important things. But she said, why didn't you cut my hair? And what struck me so much about this and why I'm sharing it is afterwards, the mother and the daughter said, you know what, she always cut her hair. She was one of those women who cut her own hair. And so she said sadly, they had to decide to take her off life support. And so that was really hard. And of course, this was much later after that I met them. But she said, why didn't you cut my hair? And they said, you know, when we were with her in the hospital, we were standing there saying, you know, her hair looks a little long. It looks a little long, you know? And the other one said, yeah, you know, she probably wanted us to cut her hair. Now, it wasn't about the hair, folks, but what that meant is she heard them, which means she heard all their I love yous. This is so hard. We don't want to do this. And all those things that we say to our loved ones and when they're unconscious, sometimes just in the dying process, not even with having an aneurysm rupture, but they hear us. They hear us. And so much is people not thinking they want to come and they want to connect with their loved ones and they want to tell them and they want them to know this like us on this side. But oftentimes it is your loved one. They didn't stop loving you. They didn't stop wanting to tell you thank you and I appreciate this. They didn't. So they also are reaching out and wanting to reassure us and love us and connect with us. So if you feel that little sense of them, I hope that you can, I think it's the next slide, trust your direct experiences. Trust, don't tell yourself, I made this up, or that didn't happen, or because they want to let us know that they're there and that they love us and they want to still remain connected. So there's lots of healing going on, and grief, as you all know, we're all on our own timeline. We all have our own ways of doing it. And I think what we might do is, I could say a lot more, but it probably, a lot of it. Can you go to the next slide? And this is, we're always connected by love. I really believe that we are created by and for love. Yes, I have this unique skill set, but I don't think there's anything unique about me. I think we all have this capacity. You may not do it the same way I do, but love is the conduit that connects us, and it doesn't get extinguished with death. I'm just telling you, it doesn't. And it still is very vibrant and alive. And so I think we have about 19 minutes for questions and answers. So if anybody has a question for me or even for one of the guests, just.
I'd like to make a comment, though,
Sure.
while he gets it ready. When I gave a talk like this some time ago, afterwards, two separate people came up. In my comments, I mentioned that
I don't know that you're on.
I'm not on, but my voice
Oh,
is on.
sorry.
You can hear me, right? Okay.
I just don't want to, I want to make sure you get, I just make sure you get heard, Jim.
Oh, okay. Testing. Oh,
There you
oh, good. I'll use this. So I gave a talk like this a few years ago, and I made the comment that I had learned from a palliative care doctor that it's easier for people to pass on when you're not there.
Yes.
And so
When
I
you
made
leave
this
the room,
comment.
I did that with my mom. My sister-in-law told me I think it was a hospice nurse.
And so I mentioned that in my talk, and two people came up afterwards, and one of them said, "Thank you so much. I've been feeling terrible for 15 years. I wasn't there because when my mother died." And another one came up and said, "Oh, my husband died, and I felt so bad I wasn't there."
Yeah.
Would you comment on that? My suspicion is that
well-
we get so attached physically, we don't want them to go, and that makes it
Well,
harder.
I don't know, but how it was explained to me, and I think it was you, Susan, when my mom was dying, I flew to St. Louis. I got there, and I said to the doctor, "This is going nowhere. She's in pain. You have to," I wasn't afraid of her dying, and she had CPOD, and so it's like, leave the room, because sometimes, was it you, Susan, who told me this, that sometimes in hospice that our energy holds the person there. They stay for us. So I would be like, okay, I'm gonna walk out of the room, I'm going, she was unconscious. I'm going, Mom, I'm going to walk out of the room. And honestly, I sat with her for 3 days, 24/7, and I would do these little, and eventually I left the room and I came back in and she was gone. And so I think that is true. And I have, obviously, people have said I feel bad, I wasn't there because they couldn't travel or whatever. And oftentimes those are the people that get the most communication for their loved ones, from their loved ones, because they want to, they want to reassure them, don't feel guilty or whatever. Anybody have a question just raise your hand. Don't be shy. Oh, come on. You left you speechless? Oh, here we go, Jim, up here, and over there. And then we've got one up front. Oh, wait a minute, 1 second. You go next, because you'll do on the with the mic side.
I have a little bit of an offbeat question. It's a little bit of an offbeat question. We recently lost a very beloved pet.
Oh, yes.
Is it possible how do we reach out?
Oh.
How do we communicate?
Pets are wonderful. Pets are wonderful. They are just great. And people have talked to their pets, but also pets will help get you your next pet. And I want to share a quick story. I had a client up in the Northwest. I was visiting. I was doing some sessions up there. And there was a woman who had lost her dog. And I wish I had the slide. She had lost her dog, which was a Rottweiler. And this dog started saying, "Come and get me, 4-alarm, 4-alarm, I'm here, come and pick me up." And this woman's looking at me like, what do I do? And I go, I don't know, it's your dog. I don't know. And so she called her friend, and they got in the car, and they started driving around, going, and this is in the Northwest. And they ended up, and they're like, what does this mean? And they came I don't know, they were like a ways away from their town. And there was a litter of 4 puppies. And it was a cross between a black lab and a red Queensland heeler. And I've done this presentation at IANS. And she got this dog, and this dog said, I want you to know I want to be a girl, because Duke was a boy. I want to be a girl, and I want you to be able to pick me up. And this dog that they got, this puppy, honestly, it's called Coda, and I have pictures of it because I presented it. But it is like, honey, I shrunk the Rottweiler, right? Its markings are the orange or the brown in the nose, and it's a girl, and her name's Coda, and she's 30 pounds, not whatever this dog was. So yes, these dogs, we lost our dog. We had to put it down during COVID, but they let us come in. Thank you, AVS. And I noticed the time and the day, and it was like after midnight on this date. And then we were looking for another dog, and I saw this ad in Nextdoor about the dog that would get along with cats in Puerto Vallarta, Mexico. And so my husband and I said, well, the lady checked us out and said, okay. And so my dog immigrated on Alaskan Air from Puerto Vallarta, Miss Finley Biggs. But anyway, I asked the woman whose daughter ran the, sanctuary, dog sanctuaries, a graduate of San Marcos High School, went down there and saw the dog situation and opened a dog rescue. Anyway, I said to the woman after we had our dog for a couple weeks, I called her, I said, what do you know about this dog? And she said, the only thing we know about this dog is it was turned in at a pet place on January 3rd, and we put down our dog on January 3rd. So I know directly in my experience that our dog Zeke got us our dog Finley. So I do believe, and pets do, they do communicate. So if you feel them, we don't have enough time. I'm sorry. She had a question. Yeah, so the answer is yes. Yes, your dog is still with you and will assist you.
So if you believe in reincarnation and the essence of who you are returns, and you've died now twice, and you're trying to communicate with someone who's living, which essence communicates, or are you two people and one spirit trying to talk and communicate, or you're two people?
This is a loaded question because I have a different view of reincarnation based on all my work, but this is sort of I'll kind of sidestep that answer, or that you might not like, but the other idea is when we die, we can attach, not like Ghostbusters, it's not poltergeist, but of course, when we're dead, we still like to have human experience. We didn't give that up. So as an energy, we can sort of attach and merge, not take over the person, not to have the experience, to have an experience, a human experience. Which is why people can say, no, I was Marie Antoinette. No, you were Marie Antoinette. Well, there couldn't be 52 of them. But we live in a linear world, so we think if we had a memory or an experience, we must have lived it. So I don't know about two essences or one essence. I would trust that they're far wiser than we are, the spirits, right? And they love us so much, they will find their way. And as I said, I really want us to trust ourselves when we have these experiences, to just receive the wisdom or the love or the grace. Sorry to cite.
I have another comment, not about that, but is that all you, did you want to say anything else to Kathy?
Like, no, I'm not on. My mic, my antenna is not up yet.
I have another comment to make, though.
Sure,
While we're on this, I have a psychology friend who's been working in the emergency room for several years. And when I started asking him about these things, what happens when people die? Do they come back and tell you they met somebody or what? And he said, well, no, the main memory I have is older people who have a heart attack and recover in the emergency room are upset because they didn't want to come back.
Right.
And
Yes.
so I just want to make the comment that if it's an older person who has a heart attack, don't regret the fact you didn't get them to the hospital.
Right.
Or didn't know CPR.
Right.
They were most likely ready to go.
Good.
And let them go and let them enjoy the transition time without being called back sooner than they need to.
Yeah, well, and Jake, and that is not uncommon that people do say, I was ready, yeah.
The other comment that I want to make is I've been so impressed with the stories I've heard with our near-death study group that meets the second Wednesday of every month here. In case some of you don't know about it, it's open to the public.
Side note, if you like Jenny and I will be back here January 14th, just Jenny and I presenting about Jake and Jake's wisdom, so.
Wonderful.
Sorry.
That was perfect. I'm impressed with the fact that there's obvious sadness and distress when we hear about people killed in the news, prominent people, not prominent people, unfortunately, crazy people who kill others. But I'm very much impressed with the fact that family and friends on the other side see this coming before they do. And they're present. And nobody dies alone.
Right.
Would you
Yeah.
comment
Yeah.
further about
No,
that?
that in my experience is true as well. People are greeted. People sometimes don't even recognize, like, this is my great grandfather, but some of them are. I mean, the stories are as unique as you can imagine. Like I said, these are a few, but yes. And I just hope that for us and all of you, for me and all of you out there, and people you're trying to help that have lost people and be present to them. Oftentimes, we don't know what to say to somebody who's lost someone. We don't know how to support them. We feel inept. We don't even know how to help ourselves. And so it's being present. They know the person died. It's not like you have to pretend like I'm not going to ask them, do you think about them? Do you, they're fully aware. They're living with loss. So, yeah. I mean, I just feel like I'm repeating myself, and you're probably like, it's a beaver moon out there, lady. Let me go home. Yeah, Mary Ann. Can you bring her the
Yes,
mic?
yes,
Mary
yes.
Ann. Oh, Mary Ann.
I'm going to the dark side. What about people that have really been on the dark side in this life? Have you had experience with greeting those folks after?
I've got to say, and I don't want to, like my grandma would say, knock on wood. I don't want to jinx myself, but I just, in like 3,600 of them, I don't come in, that kind of energy just never ends up. Now, I've had clients whose people are lost, like and I don't want to get you thinking, oh my gosh, was the grandma made it home? Is she in heaven? But there are some people, I understand this concept of limbo. Some people are confused. When the Montecito mudslide happened, I was like party line there. And some people, they didn't know what had happened to them. It happened so, but as far as like evil energy or, I'm grateful that I don't. Now, that said, there are people who have traumatized their children or done some things and come and apologized and said, I'm sorry, or whatever, or people have explained why they were the way they were in their life, sharing their past traumas, but typically no dark side energy. So, and I don't want it. It's like I'm not open for business.
Could I add something to that?
Sure.
Anthony William is the medical medium. I presume many of you have heard about him and know some things about him. He's got 9 books out that are just remarkable. The future of medicine is there. And however, his most recent book is an audio book, and the title is Angels, Demons, and Spiritual Tools. And he talks about the dark side and people having trouble and people who did not live their life as well as they could have. And so there is various things that can happen. He's very generous with his time, and if you sign up for his healing path, you get an overview of how to be healthy. But then you get access to all of his podcasts, and you would get access to this particular book, Angels, Demons, and Spiritual Tools. And he lists 16 tools for how to prepare yourself. There was a hand over here. You're the one. Okay.
2 of them.
Hi, my son committed suicide when he was 20 after drinking a lot. And so my question is, what have you had heard from spirits that have committed suicide?
They're them, they're free, they're at peace.
Do they talk about their suicide or anything like that? And
Only like I'm sorry, but I can't remember. I mean, Gina, who knows all, probably knows, but in more specifics. But no, and it's mostly, And it's like, I'm not endorsing suicide, but it is a way, it is a liberation for some people, and it lets them, just like you, I shared the person who was in bed and said, I was able to get out of the bed. So I'm terribly sorry for your loss, and I have, those people are still available, because they're, they're themselves, more themselves than they could be here oftentimes.
I have a
So.
story, if I can share that. I went to a medical meeting a few years ago, and at the last day of the meeting, sat next to a woman and chatted. What do you do besides medicine? And she said, well, I write books. I said, oh, I'm thinking about writing a book, and so tell me about it. And what was your last book? And she hung her head. And I said, what's the book? She said, well, it's entitled My Son in the Afterlife. And that's what he did, age 17. And so we start talking, and she looks around to see if anybody else is listening. I said, I'm very interested in this. I have some sense about how this is handled. And so she told me about what took place. And then after we were done chatting, she said, oh, would you please sit here a minute? And I didn't know what she was doing. She came back 5 minutes later with the book, signed the book for me, and then I read the book. And it's fascinating. She found a psychic and developed a relationship with her son after the passing. And what the son did was, apparently the first thing he said was, actually he appeared to his dad that night, and that woke up my new friend and said, oh, he was here. He took me down by the truck and told me how grateful he was that I bought the new truck, because he loved the truck. And his dad asked him, how are you doing? And he touched him on the shoulder and he said, this is how I feel now. And his dad said, oh my God, that's wonderful. He felt the love that his son was accepted by.
Right.
And then he said, well, but how did things go? Why did this happen? And he touched him on the shoulder again, and he felt his son's confusion, depression, bipolar problems that he had. He said, I had a burden to carry this lifetime, and I carried it as long as I could. And then, as the story unfolds, when she makes close contact with him, he said, she asked him, what happened when you passed? And he said, the first thing was I was assigned a counselor.
Huh.
And up here, the counselors are different than down there. Up here, the counselors do all the talking.
Well, there you have it, and they work for free, huh?
And the primary goal was to prepare to go back and look for love wherever I could find it.
Right.
And share it with other people.
Yep.
And so I'm sure this is the case many times.
Yeah.
But
Well, and like, I was part of Kim Canton, who lost her son and her husband and her dog, Chester, and her son, Jack. He says he's a touch point for love now. That's what he's doing. So, we think, what's my special purpose? How many people are looking for their mission in life? I wish I knew my purpose. And it's just can be so much more expanded. So I won't take more of your time, but thank you for coming out tonight. And I appreciate it. And thank you so much. I have a slide, if those gentlemen will put up the very last slide on the slide. Wrote a book, not trying to sell books, but it's Beyond Ever After, a heart-to-heart journey through death and the afterlife. They're at Chaucer's, they're on Amazon. So if you want more about death, thank you. And you got a source card when you came in. So I tell you, I do these source writings. These are messages from source. So if you have one, hopefully everyone has one. It's my gift to you. They're all different, and so hopefully it resonates with you. Use it as a bookmarker, pass it along, whatever you want to do. And thanks again for coming out.
Thank you. Thank you, Catherine. Thank you so much for joining us. The first Wednesday of the month, 7 o'clock here. Next month
One more.
is going to be a talk on resurrecting Christianity, guidelines for the practical Christian. I have chosen myself to talk in case you're interested.
He's been promoting himself. Thank you, everyone. And it's so good to see some of you. I haven't seen you in so long.